Next, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Jason Dempsey. He'd like to introduce Steve Alpert. Thank you.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks to the, wow, that's good lights. Well done. Thanks to the National Museum of Catholic Art and Library for putting on this event, for His Excellency Mrs. Bolsonaro, for our ambassadors, and for Tim and Christina. Thank you for putting on such a great event. As an Irish Catholic, it's an honor to be here. And I feel somewhat among my people, although I've noticed that on the Irish side, we speak the same language, but it's with fewer hand gestures and a little bit more profanity. That might just be the Army, but out of respect to the crowd here tonight, I'll try to keep it in check since we're in good company. Now, as a soldier asked to come help honor an artist at this event, the first thing that came to mind was an old poem that circulates now and then when we look to honor our veterans. In fact, Memorial Day is coming up, so your great Aunt Gertrude is likely to forward this to you on Facebook or from her AOL account in the weeks ahead. But this poem is somewhat problematic. And what it says is, it is the soldier, not the priest, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. And it goes on, and it ends with, it is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag. Now, I have no doubt that the author intended that as a message to honor the sacrifices of the military. But if you spend any time thinking about that, if you scratch back what that really means, there are two problematic elements to that poem, both of which I'm grateful that Steve addresses in his work. The first is this idea that the soldier gives rights, or that the soldier allows free expression. Soldiers defend these things, but the idea that these rights are given by those of us in uniform is, quite frankly, very dangerous. The world is littered with broken societies, wrecked by such fear that those in uniform moved beyond decisions of how to protect and started getting involved in decisions about what to protect. Now, not to put too fine a point on it, but you don't want me deciding which artists get protected by the state. I've noticed there's some older folks in the audience, so my apologies beforehand when I say that if I'm ever given a choice between taking a bullet or letting Michael Bolton die, your days of easy listening jazz are over. Right? Now, there's some younger folks in the audience laughing, so I do want to point out that Justin Bieber isn't living either, all right? But the second, the more problematic part of this poem is the implication of difference. It is written as if the artist, the poet, the priest, the protester, and the soldier are all different people, or as if these identities are the most salient to who we are. Lost in the message is that there's a much more powerful, common identity and obligation that all of us share as citizens. Sometimes it's easy to forget that common obligation, particularly during times of war. Often lost in the focus on those of us in uniform is the fact that we all have an obligation and a role to play. Just for some of us, that role is all too often too easy to ignore. For that reason, we have unfortunately come to a place where we feel divided by occupation and lose sight of common cause. And it is for that reason that too often decisions of war and peace, decisions about unleashing the violent power of the state, are met with the deafening silence of an indifferent republic. So I'm grateful to Steve for engaging in this conversation in his own way, and for highlighting the challenges that are faced primarily by some, but for which we all share responsibility. There must be continued dialogue between the soldier and the artist. And there must be a recognition that beyond these labels of priest or poet, soldier or artist, all of us are citizens. And that whether we fight or not, whether we wear a uniform or not, and whether we participate as citizens in deciding whether or not to go to war or merely stand by while it happens, we are all ultimately responsible for the outcome. So thank you, Steve, for all you do to continue this conversation and to remind us that the soldier and artist are of the same cloth and that we are all citizens. Please.
That was quite something, Jason. Thank you, buddy. That was brilliant. Thank you, Jason. Jason is, I was going to say graduating. Jason's retiring from the Army after 22 years of service. After that beautiful introduction, and he's invited me to his party Friday night, so after that introduction, I think I have to go out and buy him a more expensive gift than I already did. Only in America could a Jewish guy be honored by a Catholic organization, a guy from New York being honored by an organization in Washington, D.C., who makes military paintings, who never served. It's one of my greatest regrets in my life that I never served in uniform, and I have the highest regard for those who have and those who do and those who will. I want to thank Christina Cox, who called me in October. I hadn't heard from Christina in a while, and I've watched you form this vision and have this dream, and I've seen you work and put it together, and it's truly inspiring. You will never be stopped, whatever you set your mind to, and you are the embodiment of the American dream. I also want to thank my wife, that very cute person over there, who, as Paul Gatto so brilliantly said, if you don't have a partner to support you and encourage you and love you as an artist, you just can't get there. So thank you so much, Dorothy. I owe you so much. I can never repay you back for what you've done for me to allow me to become the artist I've become. But maybe afterwards we can talk about it and figure something out. I want to read you an exact quote from a great American, a great president, a great Catholic American, and a great Catholic president, John F. Kennedy, one of my great heroes. And he said, I quote, "If art is to nourish the roots of our culture, society must set the artist free to follow his vision wherever it takes him." And that is what has happened to me over the years. I've traveled to every state in this union. I've been to every state at least twice, except for Alaska, only one time. I've painted the American landscape for more than 40 years, and about 13 years ago, it suddenly dawned on me everything that Jason just talked about the importance of military service and what that small group of our population, 1% in uniform, our volunteer armed forces, what they do for us. And the freedom that I've been allowed to enjoy in becoming the artist I've always wanted to become is because of men and women like Jason, those who came before, and those who will come after. I'm going to end here and thank you all so much and wish you Godspeed. And I want to do one last thing, if you indulge me. I would like to ask all the men and women who are currently serving or who have served in the armed forces to please stand up and take a bow. We want to give you the gratitude and honor that you so richly deserve. Please do so. God bless you all. Thank you.